Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to demonstrate several multi-level mediation models in R, and we will be using the lavaan package. Before we get started, let me note that the data that we're going to be using comes from this article right here. The article and the accompanying information is open source, but it's at the Plus One website. This is the link to the article, and so you can download both the article and the data for free, which is very, very nice of the authors to do. And so basically the data are on 162 employees who are nested within 51 work teams. So employees are level 1 units, and work teams, that's the level 2 set of units. The data that for this particular demonstration, I've gone ahead and saved it to an R data file, which you can go to this link right here to download it. And in fact, what I'm going to do is include links to the R data file as well as to this article right here, and the PowerPoint that you see open, and a accompanying text file that contains the commands that we're going to be using in the video demonstration. So let's get started by just reviewing our first model. So this model right here, this is a 2-1-1 mediation model, and the 2 is referring to the fact that our x variable has been measured at level 2, and the 2 1s are referring to the mediator and the outcome variable, both of those directly measured at level 1. So within this particular model, though, just keep in mind that we can't directly link a between group variable to within group variables in this type of model. And so what we have to do is we study the mediated relationship by estimating the means for psychological safety and promotive voice at level 2. And so fundamentally the actual test of mediation is all occurring at level 2. But the 2-1-1 is referring to essentially the fact that we directly measured, again, our x variable at level 2 and the mediator and the outcome variable at level 1. So you'll see within this diagram right here, and by the way, I drew this out using the AMOS program. This is not something associated with lavaan, but I drew this out in the AMOS program so that to give you a visualization of this. AMOS does not allow you to perform multi-level mediation, but it is a great drawing program, and so that's why I drew it out in this kind of way. But you'll also see that we have path A and path C right here, and the indirect effect of group procedural justice on promotive voice is essentially calculated as a product of paths A and B. And then we have path C right here, which is the direct effect of group procedural justice on promotive voice. So the total effect of the group procedural justice on promotive voice is nothing more than just taking the products of paths A and B and adding it to the path C. So let's take a quick look at our code for this particular model. So this code is contained in the text file that I was referring to earlier. So you can see right here I have a pound sign followed by essentially a comment. So the pound just indicates that we have a comment line. Next, we're going to lay out the basic model. So you can see I'm creating an object in R that's called model 211A. And you'll see that we have an arrow right here. The arrow is just basically a less than sign followed by a hyphen. And then you can see right here I have a single quotation mark right here. And then we also have a quotation mark at the end. And so everything that falls between the opening and the ending quotation mark contains the model information. On the next line you can see I've got level : 1. And following that I have my level 1 model. So you can see that we have promotive voice, tilde, and then psychological safety. So these are the variables as they appear in the data frame that we're working with. And so then we also have level 2, level : 2, and then we have our model for level 2. So you can see we've got promotive voice, tilde, psychological safety plus right there, and then group procedural justice. So this is the variable as it appears in the data frame, so it's GPJC. On the next line we've got psychological safety, tilde, and then GPJC again. So you'll notice that with promotive voice and psychological safety, both of those were directly measured at level 1, but because we have this appearing again at level 2, what's going to happen is the estimation of latent means for those two variables. And so that's how we're relating the variables at level 2. You'll also see that we have an A star for group procedural justice, B star psychological safety, and C star for the group procedural justice variable. And the A, B, and C are referring to basically labeling the paths for those predictive relationships. And we use those labels to calculate the indirect and total effects. On this next line right here, you can see I've got a pound sign and then a comment, just indirect and total effects. Then on the next line, this right here, AB, is going to be the name of part of the output that's containing the indirect effect. So you can see that following that, I've got a colon and then an equal sign, and then A times B. So essentially, we're multiplying the path coefficients for A and B to get the indirect effect. Then on the next line, we're creating a new output label, which is called total. We have a colon, then an equal sign, and then AB plus C. So we're taking the indirect effect right here and adding the direct effect, which is C. On the next line right down here, so once we've closed everything off, again, we have to have our end quotation mark. We have, on this line right here, we've got fit 211A. So I'm going to create a fit object that contains all of the model information after we run the analysis. So you can see I've got an arrow pointing to it from SEM. This is a SEM function associated with the lavaan package. Inside the parenthesis, you can see I've got model 211A. So we're going to run the analysis on this particular model right here. We've got the data argument followed by the name of the data frame, which is called PR voice, comma, and then we've got cluster equals, and inside quotation marks, we have the name of the variable as it appears in the data frame that contains our cluster information, our cluster codes. So that variable happens to be team code. On the next line, you can see I'm using the summary function in order to take a look at the output. So we've got fit 211A, comma, and if I want fit indices for the analysis, I can type in fit.measures, set that equal to true. Okay, so we have our R opened up. I've already downloaded the R data file and opened it up, so it's actually activated in memory. So the first thing that we need to do, though, is we need to use the library function to call up the lavaan package. So I'm going to type in library and then inside parenthesis lavaan, and so it's activated and ready to go. So we don't have to do this again. Next, let's take a look at our data. I'm going to use the structure function, so we'll type in str and then the name of our data frame. So the data frame is saved to that R data file, and the name of the data frame is PR voice, and we'll hit enter right here so we can take a look at it. So just looking at the data frame, you can see that we have our team code cluster variable right here. You can also see, as you kind of scroll down, we have promote a voice. This is the level 1 outcome variable. We have psychological safety. This is a level 1 predictor variable. And then we've got GPJC. This is the level 2 measured variable. So let's go ahead and run our model. It's, again, a 211 multi-level mediation. So what we'll do is we're going to create an object that contains all the model information, all the model specifications. So we'll type in model 211A, 211A, and then we'll type in our arrow and then our apostrophe. On the next line, I'll type in level and then a colon and then 1. So don't get it mixed up. It's not level 1 colon, it's level colon 1. On the next line, we'll type in promote a voice. So that's the name as it appears in the data frame right here. So that's it right there. So we got promote a voice, tilde, and then psychological safety as it appears in the data frame. So next, we'll go to our next line, and then we'll type in level colon 2, and then we'll type in promote a voice, followed by a tilde sign. And then again, I've already decided on the labels for the path. So this is now going to be B star psychological safety plus C star then GPJC. So we'll go to our next line. Then we'll type in psychological safety, tilde, A star GPJC. Then on the next line, again, I just have a little comment line, so I'll just type that again, indirect and total effects. Then we'll have a label for our output, which we'll call AB, and then we'll type in colon equals, and then A star B. So we're going to multiply paths A and B, and then we'll type in total right here, colon, then the equal sign, then AB plus C, and then our end quotation marks. So now we've got the model information in. Next, I'm going to type in fit 211A, and then arrow, and then we're going to use the SEM function, and we'll type in model 211A, model 211A, comma, data equals PR voice, comma, cluster equals, and then in quotation marks, team code, in quotation marks, and in parenthesis right there. So now you can see there's a little bit of an error message, but it's just basically saying that there's no variation within some of the clusters. So that's all it is. Next, what we'll do is we'll type in the summary function, then fit 211A, and if I want the fit measures, I can type in fit.measures equal true, and in parenthesis, and there you go. So now we've run our basic model. You can see that we have various fit measures and so forth. You can see right here, there's our standardized root mean square residual for the within covariance matrix, and then for the between covariance matrices. Kind of scrolling down, you can see right here the main stuff that we want to focus in on are the level 1 model. So you can see regressions. We've got promotive voice regressed onto psychological safety. So there's the unstandardized regression coefficient. There's the standard error, z-value, and a p-value that's given. You can see that it's not statistically significant at the conventional 0.05 level. The intercepts that you see right here, this is going to be 0, so there's nothing wrong or problematic with that. It's just fixed to 0. The variance at level 1, these are referring to the level 1 residuals, so there's the variance estimate, and you can see it's statistically significant. The level 2 regressions, so there it is right there. You can see we've got promotive voice regressed onto psychological safety, and then the group procedural justice. So both of these are the unstandardized coefficients. Both of these, by the way, were non-significant. We have psychological safety regressed onto group procedural justice. There's the estimate, and that was statistically significant. As you scroll down, you can see that we have the essentially the estimated grand mean of the latent group means for promotive voice and psychological safety right there. And you can see that we have the variance estimates as well for both of these. Both of these happen to be non-significant. And then down below, you've got the defined parameters. So there's the indirect effect. There's the estimate. You can see it was not statistically significant. And then the total effect, there's the estimate, and it was not statistically significant. So there was no evidence in this particular demonstration of mediation that was taking place. Now here we have a slight variation on the previous model. I'm going to call this model 211B. And in this case, we're going to add in just another level 1 predictor, which is team identification. So the individual's response in terms of identification with their work teams. And you can see down here that I've included, basically we have at level 1, promotive voice, tilde, psychological safety plus the team identification. So now we have 2 predictors at level 1. And then right on this line, I've got psychological safety and team identification. And I have 2 tilde signs in between. And that's just basically estimating the covariance between these 2 variables at level 1. So in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is just take my text file, and I'm just going to copy this out of it and paste it into the into R and run the analysis. And so there you go. So now you can see what we have. We have our estimated covariance between psychological safety and team identification at level 1. You can see the regressions that were given. So promotive voice being a function of both psychological safety and team identification. It turns out that the team identification estimate, that was statistically significant. If we scroll down, you can see that with regressions, we also have a covariance estimate at level 2 for team identification and the group procedural justice that's given. And let me also note, in addition, that we have this down here, LAV, with a capital I inspect, so that's lavaan inspect. You can see that inside parenthesis I've got the name of the fit object for the second model, fit 211B, comma, and then I've got inside quotation marks ICC. So that's going to give me the intra-class correlation coefficient for each of the level 1 variables that are included in the model. Okay, so now let's move on to our another model. We're going to, in this case, we're going to be modeling a 1-1-1 mediation model. So basically, in this case, we have level 1 X variable, mediator variable, and Y variable. And so in this case, we're actually going to be estimating the latent means for each of our variables at level 2. And you can see that we have the direct measurements all, again, occurring at level 1. So for this demonstration, you can see right here, again, comment line 1-1-1 multi-level mediation. So I'm creating an object that's called model 1-1-1. It's going to contain all of the model information. Again, there's my arrow and the single quotation mark, both beginning and ending right there. You can see that we have level :1. Then we have promotive voice, tilde, psychological safety, plus team identification, and then we have psychological safety, tilde, team identification. So basically, in this particular model at level 1, what we're going to be doing is testing the indirect effect of team identification on promotive voice via psychological safety, which is our mediator. You can see that I've also assigned labels E star, F star, and D star right there. So basically these, we have paths E, F, D, E, and F, which are the labels at level 1. For now, we can also specify level 2. So we have level :2. Then we have promotive voice, psychological safety, and team identification. Then psychological safety, tilde, team identification. So you can see that the specification is exactly the same between levels 1 and 2. But in this case, I'm adding in labels for paths of A, B, and C. So in this particular demonstration, we will be modeling both, or testing both in, within groups indirect effect as well as between groups indirect effect. You'll also notice that at level 2, I've included team identification, then 2 tilde signs, and then team identification here. And that is basically specifying a variance estimate for the team identification latent means at level 2. All right, so now let's look at, I have, again, another comment line. This is the between model, and then we also have a within model. So you can see when I'm at the between level, I've got AB, that's just a label for the indirect effect at level 2, colon, equal sign, then A times B, and then total between, we have a colon, equal sign, and then AB plus C. For the within portion, we've got DE, that's the name of the indirect effect within groups. Then we have essentially our colon, equal sign, then D times E, so that's referring to the labels at level 1. And then total width, we have a colon followed by an equal sign, then DE plus F. So I'm going to open up my text file right here and just go ahead and copy all of this and paste it into lavaan. You can also see that down here we've got fit 111. That's going to be the name of the fit object after we run the analysis. So you can see we have our arrow pointing from SEM function, and then our model 111 inside the parenthesis, comma, data equals PR voice, that's the name of the data frame, and then cluster is equal to team code again. You can see that I'm also using the summary function again to generate the output. And then I'm also going to use the lavaan inspect function right here to generate ICCs for the level 1 variables. So let's just actually copy all of this and paste it in. and run the analysis. So you can see right here, there's our lavaan inspect. So there's ICC for promote a voice right there, psychological safety at level 1, and team identification at level 1 as well. So there's the ICC. If we scroll up, you can see our various fit measures and so forth. Our regressions at level 1, there's promote a voice regressed onto psychological safety and team identification. So you can see that team identification actually turns out to be a significant predictor of promote a voice, but not psychological safety. You can also see that team identification was a significant predictor of psychological safety. So there's the estimate, and there's a significance level. You can see right here again with the intercepts, all of these are going to be 0. That is as it should be. Variance estimates, these are the level 1 variances for promote a voice, psychological safety, and team identification. Then we have the level 2 model. So we have our regressions that are given. Promote a voice regressed onto psychological safety at the group level. You can see that there's a negative coefficient. It's not significant. Promote a voice regressed onto team identification at level 2. There's an estimate, non-significant. Then we have psychological safety regressed onto team identification at level 2. There's the estimate, and that actually ends up being non-significant as well. You also see we have our between group variances with respect to the latent cluster means for team identification, promote a voice, and psychological safety that's given, as well as the p-values for each of those. And then most important for our testing mediation, we have the defined parameters. There's AB, that's the indirect effect at level 1. That's the estimate, and it's non-significant. The total effect, AB is at level 2, the total effect at level 2, there's the estimate. It's non-significant. The effect at level 1, the indirect effect at level 1, there's the estimate, non-significant. And then the total within cluster effect, there's the estimate, and that actually happens to be statistically significant. So for our final demonstration, we will carry out an analysis. Basically, this is for data where we have measurements occurring at level 2 for the X variable and the mediator, and then a level 1 outcome, which is our promote a voice. So in this particular case, this is just basically 2-2-1 model. So again, you can see right here, there's path A, there's path B, and then there's path C right there, all at level 2. And so again, we're going to relate our level 2 X and mediator variables to the outcome variable, all at level 2. So here we have the code for running that particular analysis. So you can see I've got model 221. My arrow, there's my quotation mark again. You've got level :1, and then promote a voice, and then I've got a (1). So basically there are no predictors occurring at level 1, but I have to specify promote a voice as a level 1 variable. So essentially the 1 is indicating the estimation of intercepts for promote a voice for all the clusters, and that's basically it. Then we have level :2. We've got promote a voice tilde, and then we've got group procedural justice measured at level 2, and then team size measured at level 2. Then on the next line, I've got group procedural justice tilde, and then team size. So basically, again, we're going to relate team size to promote a voice basically via the group procedural justice variable. And again, I'm labeling the paths. So I've got paths A, B, and C labeled. So you can see down here under indirect and total effects, I've got AB, that's going to be the name of the indirect effect, colon, equal sign, then A times B. And then for total, I've got following that up with an colon, equal sign, then AB, which is the name of the indirect effect, plus C. And then again, don't forget that final quotation mark there. So then down here, I'm just going to rerun the model, or run the model, saving it to a fit object that I'm just going to call fit221. So again, we're using our SEM function, And pretty much everything else is laid out in the same way. Just for a following summary, we're going to use fit 221, and then with lavaan inspect, we're going to use fit 221. So let's go ahead and copy all of this and paste it in from the text file. And there you go. So you can see right there, there's the ICC for promotive voice. When you scroll up, you can see that there's nothing given for promotive voice in terms of any regression parameters. You can see that the where it says intercepts, this is set to 0 or fixed to 0. The variance at level 1, the within group variance for promotive voice, this is the estimate right there. At level 2, you can see we have promotive voice, which was regressed onto group procedural justice and team size. So you can see the labels for the parameters that are given right there. There's group procedural justice regressed onto team size. That was path A right there. None of those paths were statistically significant at level 2. Then we have the intercepts. So you can see the intercept estimate, which is the grand mean of the promotive voice variable at level 2, in addition to the group procedural justice. You can see we have variance estimates for those. And then we have the defined parameters, the indirect effect, and then the total effects. So at any rate, that wraps up this demonstration. On the last slides of the PowerPoint, you'll find links to various pieces of information that can be helpful as you're learning how to do this using lavaan. This is a link to the article describing the lavaan package, and then there are various links to multi-level analysis. There's not really what I would consider to be a lot of information online at this point showing how to perform multi-level mediation analysis using lavaan. So, but these are some links that I consulted when I was putting this presentation together. So that concludes this video demonstration, and I appreciate you watching.